Welcome to the show that looks at truth, fiction, and reality with a smirk. I'm Aaron Peterson.
I'm Amanda Sink.
And I'm Zach Parkerson.
And welcome to Smirk. Each week, one of our hosts introduces an original story, which we then use as a springboard for a spirited and lighthearted discussion on whatever the moral or theme of their story is or was. And this week, it is Zach's turn. Zach, Joy Man. You happy?
Drum roll. Am I happy?
Yeah. As a story, is it happy? Is it filled with joy and fun and love and rainbows?
I don't think that's what our audience comes to me for.
Okay.
If you're happy and you know it, just clap your hands.
No, you should have just walked past that.
Well, I don't know. Do you hear the dead silence? Because nobody's happy anymore.
Not on the internets.
Twitter's not the internet, Aaron. You have to learn that.
I think it's on the actual, like, CNN is angry now. Everything is angry. Everything I used to go to for fun or information is all like,
You used to go to CNN for fun?
Yeah. Yay, floods!
And they have their stand-up routines in the middle of the hour?
I'm ready for you. You know what? Your stories are always interesting, at the very least. If not happy, if not joyous. They are always interesting. They're very well written.
Well, you know what? I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm blushing.
If this was Goodreads, I would give you whatever stars they give you.
I think it's out of 5 stars. I'm pretty sure.
4.8.
Why?
Well, that's not out of 5.
I need more.
That's
smile.
out of 50.
One more smile an episode. 5.
That's. I'm smiling right now after all these.
5. Bam.
Just compliments.
Just like that. Just like that.
Sweet.
All right.
It's me and Brandon Sanderson, the top 2 Goodreads authors.
Sweet. I don't know that guy, but I bet he's awesome. But
Are
he's
you
not
crazy.
Who's Brandon Sanderson?
The listeners know. He's writing the Stormlight Archives, Way of Kings, Words of Radiance. He's a big fantasy author right now.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm sure all of those Smirk listeners know who he is.
I mean, it's a 10 novel series in progress.
What number is he on?
I think he just put out 3 late last year, they're about 1,000 pages each.
What?
Like with 3 zeros?
Yeah.
No.
That's how numbers work.
He's like Martin, but he can write on time.
Yeah, but that's why I like this show, because the stories are like 3 minutes on Audible.
Yeah. We try to tap it out of 500 words.
All right, man, it's your turn. Go ahead. Let's hear it.
1,000 pages coming up.
Oh, if you do a 1,000-page story, I'll be back in the winter.
I'm taking a nap.
Yeah.
60-hour audiobook episode.
There better be dragons.
How do you know there aren't?
I don't, but I'm saying 1,000 pages. There better be a dragon at some point.
All right, enough beating around here. Gather around the campfire. It's time for a story. I see them faintly. Arguing, shouting. It's loud, but I try to ignore it. This is established. Par for the course, you could say. I can't make out what they're yelling about, but I imagine it's some stupid nonsense. Always was from my recollection. I sat on the ground in the basement, trying to ignore the noisy chaos playing out across the room. I play with my toy cars. The dump truck is carrying the fleet of muscle cars and sports cars. The good stuff. You know, as dump trucks do. It backs up, unloading the cars onto the concrete floor. It's racing time. But first the truck needs to get out of here. Its purpose fulfilled. Time for these cars to move. It's a fun time, and I hope the red convertible wins again. The race gets postponed, unfortunately. The screaming intensifies from down the room. They're loud, distracting the audience from the street race about to begin on the basement floor. Gently, I push the unneeded dump truck towards the arguing figures. The truck needs to get out of here, and maybe it can make them stop yelling. I hope it will. I hope anything will. To my surprise, the truck isn't much of a distraction to them at all. It doesn't make them stop. It gets kicked back in my direction, flinging in the air and hitting the wall behind me, breaking apart. I've lost my vehicle transport. I'm yelled at for interrupting. Guess that is my fault. I sure hope the race is a good one today.
So obviously this is a child upset about their parents arguing, but they know words like vehicle transport. So how old are they?
Well, I mean, it's a recollection, clearly.
Oh.
I wrote recollection in the first paragraph, hoping to get that across.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense.
Wow.
Recollection.
Is that the name of your story? I think we figured out all of the answers.
No, it was originally going to be, and then I thought we would have to have this conversation, Amanda, so I changed it.
He's a forward thinker.
You really know who you're working with here.
It's actually a really, really deep and insightful kind of way to approach that particular. If that's the topic I think you're going to have, I think that's a really interesting way to do it.
It was also really sad.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
You take so much compliment to that.
I'm getting really sick of complimenting you. That's what I'm getting tired of.
Yeah,
no,
why are we doing this?
There's no need to be sick of that.
So the moral of your tale, I think, is, man, I don't know. That's tough. Is it really a moral or a theme?
I will say I got a little purple with the wordage on the moral. If you understand my meaning.
I don't at all.
Yeah. What does the color have to do with it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is it bruised or is it like the Donatello?
Purple prose is like unnecessarily theatrical. Like Shakespeare would be purple prose.
Yeah, that's why I didn't get it. Shakespeare.
Yes, nobody here in college, huh?
I don't like Shakespeare. It made no sense to me.
Finished and I never heard that word.
I like Shakespeare in the Park from Avengers. I like that. Does that count?
Oh, that was really good.
Yeah, see?
There will always be men like you.
I can't listen to dialogue. It doesn't make any sense. People don't talk like that. Stop it.
No, I don't like Shakespeare at all.
Ooh, there's people that like this for the stories and like, I can't take you people seriously. You don't like the Shakespeare. Moral. Amanda, what do you think? Moral.
I guess for me, it sounds like some of the painful memories will stick with you for the rest of your life or something.
Oh, that's really close. I'll say it's close.
I was going to say your parents that don't pay attention to what they're doing around their kids can affect their overall lives. Imaginations, just stunt their imagination. I don't know. That was really long, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I think you're both onto the same idea. The past is prologue.
Oh.
Look at you and your fancy terminology and phrasing.
It's like you got super smart.
Wow. Soup smart. That's me.
Very good. You know what? That was a. What are we going to talk about now?
We're not going to compliment him anymore. Stop complimenting him.
You are not getting any more compliments.
You're about to compliment me.
I'm taking it back. I'm taking it back. Taking it back. This is the worst episode I've ever done of Smirk on this particular Thursday.
Not even halfway through.
No.
Dick.
No, it's really good.
Is it ever okay to yell in front of your kids?
Oh, snap. That's a hard one. Is it ever okay? Or is it something that sometimes demands to be done?
Right. Well, like the obvious answer is no, right?
I would say so. The obvious answer would be no. It's bad for them. But
I think how do we reword like say you're gonna scream down with your wife, Aaron, and you got your kid in the room. Do you think it's important that you try to take that argument away from the kid?
Yes, I do think. In fact, I would say it's detrimental if you don't. Honestly, it's very damaging and psychologically damaging. I think you can be conscious of it. I mean, every parent has yelled at their kids and yelled more than they should have and felt horrible about it and everything. I mean, these are all things that everybody has done. But perfect world, yes, you never ever get in a fight with your significant other or girlfriend or boyfriend or spouse in front of your kids.
I feel like even though your emotions might be running high, if both parents come to an agreement that they won't even discuss matters while the kid is in the room, then that alleviates that issue.
Yeah, you think it does, but it doesn't work.
I'm not saying it's always going to, but if you look at them
until they're really, really mad, then suddenly they're going to do it.
Right, but then the person who's about to get yelled at could stop the conversation and be like, "We have an agreement. We're not discussing this in front of child."
I want to hang out at your house.
Yeah, I don't think you could do that to a woman. Are you kidding me?
A healthy relationship would have the kid in the best frame of mind and trying to do what's best for them. And especially with a child, it sounds like this kid is pretty young in your story. So, and it lasted with him or her, I guess, for the rest of their life. And your story is kind of a testament to how it actually is. Kids are still going to remember those moments. So it's not, even though the argument may have been valid, there may be like a legitimate basis for having that argument, you really should shut yourself down and avoid that, because you could really mess up your kid if you continue to do that. I'm not saying one time is going to kill them or ruin them forever, but reoccurring is no bueno.
I don't know. Try to tell that Charles Manson, okay?
Wow, this shifted.
That went to the extreme.
Oh, sorry. You had to use extreme examples in extreme situations, okay?
It's difficult though when you say
no,
that.
like it seems to be right. Like I mean, I'm sure we've all been privy to the awkward situation where you're with a friend and their significant other, and they're just screaming at each other in front of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's always really fun.
Yeah,
my favorite thing.
Seems when people get fired up, they just don't even seem to acknowledge the world around them.
You know, my favorite is when that happens, and then your buddy, maybe he was in the wrong at that particular time. And he's like, I can't believe her, right? And you're just sitting there going, wait, I'm supposed to side with you when you were clearly wrong. But yeah, go, man. That woman. Yeah,
or those tremendous moments where they turn to you like, well, what do you think, Zach? You're like, I'd
rather not, because this friendship is important because you can give me a ride.
I can't side with her. You have the car. I framed this question loaded, but I'm going to ask it that way anyway because I don't care.
Okay.
How can people argue that nature plays more of a role than nurture when situations clearly exist like this for most people?
Oh, that's a fascinating question, and it's insane when people make that argument. I don't know, because I've never met anyone who wasn't more influenced by their nurturing than their nature.
I can meet people who have clearly been affected by their nurture who argue in favor of nature.
Seriously, and it blows my mind. I know a guy. I know
this guy.
I'm serious. I know a guy who had spinal bifida or something like that. You know, had a hole in his spine, so he's been mostly paralyzed most of his life. Right, could barely walk. Told he was going to die when he was a kid. He made it. He's made it to my age. He's made it decades. Right. I'm not going to say how many, but he's made it a couple decades, and he's had tons of hardships, nonstop, just pain and suffering in many respects, just constant battles in his life. And he is well adjusted, and he tries to do right. You know, he's a good person. Now, I don't know. You don't know anybody. Maybe in private, he beats cats. I have no idea, but he seems like a wonderful dude. And because his mother treated him with respect, loved him to death, helped him every time she could, never overcompensated, you know what I mean? Never spoiled him rotten, you know, she's
let
him live his life.
Never like screamed at the teacher that he wasn't taking care of her son's needs enough.
Exactly. And he had a hard time. Like I saw him get bullied. You know, I tried to help him when I could. I saw him go through a lot of this stuff most of his life. I've run into him and I've seen him through the course of my life. If that doesn't prove to me it's not just nature, it's nurture that makes the bigger difference, I don't know what does, man. Because if I went through half of what he went through, plus the stuff that I went through like when I was a kid, I'd be Nino Brown. That's what I'd be from New Jack City. I'd just be dealing crack all over the Upper West Side.
I love to reference New Jack City.
That is a great film that is unappreciated and should be worshipped by more.
I'm hearing about your friend and I'm thinking how whenever I see anybody happy, I always just think, what the hell went so right with their life? But boy, it would be hard to say that to somebody in a wheelchair. Even if they were happy, it would have to be like, But really, what did go so right in your life?
Especially when, I swear, I was there when he was told that he wouldn't make it past his 18th birthday. I mean, that's a really hard pill to swallow. And
that's a rough birthday party.
Yeah, right? And he did, because he had a good attitude. And obviously that's not everything, but it's kind of hard to sit there and feel sorry for yourself when somebody's there like that. You know,
this guy's like Superman.
He's a tough guy, very tough guy. Nothing but respect for that dude.
Wow,
that's a sweet story.
Mm-hmm.
It goes without saying, for when you look at it logically, that you need nurture and you need nature to make up who you are. The nurture can't exist without the nature, and the nature can't exist without the nurture. They go hand in hand. There is no way you can specifically cite what the causation is for anyone unless it's scientific. So when it comes to nurture, that's when it starts to fall on the psychological aspects and the traumas and things that you've been through and your hardships and everything else. But some of those hardships come from the nature of your biological being. So if it weren't for those, natural things that are occurring within you, like in his situation, he wouldn't have had those hardships because he wouldn't have had, his spina bifida or whatever it's called. So he might not have encountered those things and needing to be nurtured in a different way. And I'm sure his mom had to take extra time to figure out how to do this. I think it would be very, what's the right word for this? I think it would be very damaging to try to say that one is more important than the other, because both of them play a really big role. If you were to say that nurture is much more important than the nature aspect, then you're taking out mental health completely.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
A lot of mental health illnesses, though, are a nature sort of aspect because they're biological. They're in your brain. But sometimes those illnesses aren't brought out without your nurture. So stressful situations, schizophrenia is a great example.
And some of those are caused by nurture.
That's what I'm saying. Some of them are caused or brought out by a nurture situation. So the two of them go hand in hand.
Right. I hadn't considered, but I could see what she's saying, right? Because isn't bipolar disorder like a chemical imbalance in the brain?
It is.
Yes, that one is, yeah.
Yeah. So I can see where she's coming from.
A lot of the psychology and neuroscience community have sort of come to an agreement, even though there's a lot of controversy on this topic, which is, interesting that you bring this up, Zach. But they've sort of started to come to an agreement that they do intertwine and rely on each other. And it's really hard to prove that that it's an exact cause from something, that causation isn't there. You might have the correlation to either nature or nurture, but you can't really definitively always say that it's caused by one or the other more predominantly. You can, try to come to that conclusion and it might be right, but in my perspective, you may have been in a situation that caused something, but your brain kind of acts on that. And that's, I guess, the easiest way for me to explain that is to use the schizophrenia, because if you have that nature aspect, that chemical imbalance in your brain that is hardwired for you to have that mental disorder, you might not show any signs. That's why a lot of times you don't see it until you're in your early 20s, until you're in a very, very stressful situation. And then that nature or that nurture that you're in, that environment, causes your mental illness to now appear. Each situation is different. So some people might have, like, their nurture has drastically changed who they are much more than their biologics ever have. But in some people, it might be reverse. So I think it really kind of is a person by person situation. It's hard to say that one matters more than the other, anything.
But the question was clearly phrased that one does matter more than the other, so I'm sorry that you're incorrect.
Just because your question says that doesn't mean I have to agree with how it says it.
I mean, it's the question, Amanda. What do you want me to do?
Rephrase your question.
I already said nurture. Nurture wins. That's to me. I mean, I can have all the studies in the world. I've had life studies, and I'm telling you, I think nurture is way more important than your nature. I think that's going to determine exactly how everything happens for you, for the most part. I'm not saying for everybody, because there are correlations, and I know there's psychological studies, Miss Psych Lady.
Well, and
knock out all this
scientific.
Stuff, huh?
Yeah, I'm not knocking the science. I'm just saying I'm going off my own science. I've done my own personal life study by people I know, and I'm telling you, I've seen it. Like, I didn't have a dad, and maybe a better dad. If I would have had a dad, I don't know if I would have been the same kind of dad. I think those things matter. Nurture matters.
I hear the jury's still out on science anyway.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank goodness the Earth is still flat.
Right.
Oh,
the
boy.
Climate. What's that?
I know. It's normal to have 100 degrees in the Midwest in January. Sorry. If you're a climate denier, I'm with you.
Zach, where do you lie on it? Because obviously with the phrasing of your question, you don't see that it's a median with equal of both. So do you lie more on nature or nurture?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear in the way I phrase the question that nurture, I think, plays a bigger part, as does my moral, the past is prologue. I mean, I think everything that defines you is just a collection of your memories up until that point, which is why Alzheimer's scares the living hell out of me.
Because then you forget them and life will be better.
Maybe, or maybe it gets worse, or you lose yourself. It's like when people ask the question, if you could go back in time and change one thing, what would you change? Right? Like, some people answer nothing. I would answer nothing, because I am myself because of what has happened and the way things went.
You mean like that episode we did where we asked this question?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
I think I said I would then, but anyway.
You did.
That doesn't count. That doesn't count. That wasn't serious. It wasn't a lie detector test.
No, and I mean, there are things,
No, I think you said you did.
To our previous episode, there are things that I would like to change theoretically, but I mean, the fact is, like, you are who you are because of what you've done.
I don't disagree with that. I wouldn't change anything. I might have changed some of my own personal decisions along the way.
If I could go back in time with my memories intact and reenact my life out, maybe I would do that.
Looks like we need another time machine episode. So we can fix the mistakes in the last episode where we had a time machine.
That would be fun. Wouldn't that be fun? We have a time traveler interrupt the story previously.
Right.
That would actually be funny.
We start with the story from that episode and we just change how it ended. I like it.
Yeah. Cut that out. We got to save that for later.
Yes.
They don't need to know what we're doing. We need to seem creative.
We'll use that around a holiday when we're like, you know what? We could take a break. Why don't we just fill in an episode? Use that time machine one.
Yeah, that's fun. Last question. Obviously, I posited this is the character's first memory. Do you guys care to share yours?
Oh, first memory.
First memory of childhood?
Yeah. Well, that would be your first memory. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to. I put it last because
I was in a
want to share
bubble of fluid, and then I just swam out.
The's no way
you remember that.
Yeah, and then I was swinging around like Indiana Jones.
Ashton Kutcher in the butterfly effect.
I actually cut the cable myself.
He was a really advanced newborn.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? I saw that video.
Amanda, do you remember your very first? God, I don't know what that would be.
I could remember my oldest memory of my parents in an altercation. I remember something there because it didn't happen very often where they argued in front of me. But I remember that. But oldest memory in general, I have no idea. I don't even know how to sort that timeline out in my head. How old was I in this situation?
I think you're overthinking it, the both of you. Just when you think of your first memory, what pops into your head?
My very first, I am legitimately trying to, because a bunch of stuff pops up and I can't remember the age.
I think that's what he's yelling at us about, is that we're not just picking the first one that comes to our memory.
Well, you don't have to pick. I assume you can try to sort the timeline.
Dude, I can't. It doesn't even make sense.
I didn't know if I just assumed the Legos were going to be involved, I guess.
All right. Here, I remember
football.
My first thing that I can remember, because this
was it throwing darts at a picture of your dad?
No, probably no. But I was at.
I didn't realize it put you both on the spot quite so much.
No, I was at my grandparents' house, and I remember because I was angry when I was a little kid because I didn't have a dad, so I'm blaming him. And
sure.
He came back when I was an adult. Wonderful grandfather, not so good a dad at the time. I was at my grandparents' house, and my grandma was gone, and my grandpa. I was mad about something, and I was outside, and I was kicking over lawn chairs.
This just sounds. It is so easy to imagine a little Aaron doing that.
That happened. So I remember he came out, and he brought me in the house, and he spanked me with a belt, because that's what they did back in the day. It's not child abuse. I'm fine with it, so please don't file a complaint. And then he's like, you don't do anything like that again, I swear, because you're going to regret it. I remember that there's no tomorrow. And I remember he sat me at the dining room table, and that was right next to the window where those damn chairs were. And I just kept looking at him, and I was stewing, and I ran out and kicked him again. And
you're going to regret it.
I remember parts of that before I blacked out. So, yeah, that's my first memory that I can recall.
So I would like to point something out that I think that it's really interesting that the two of us so far, 2 out of 3, the first memory that we feel we can remember is of something where we had a negative reaction to a situation.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I would say,
what was your negative reaction?
I kicked over some lawn chairs.
He was angry, and then he was.
She said 2 out of 3. She hasn't told it. I assume her story.
Well, because mine was just the one where my parents were arguing. So I've seen videos of me in a certain place that I lived when I was, I don't know, up to 2 years old or something, and then moved somewhere when I was 3 or 4 or whatever. But there's this instance where I was about 6 or something like that, and I just remember. And I can't visualize everything, but I remember my parents being down the hall. My dad came to pick me up because my parents were already separated. And he came to pick me up, and they never argued in front of me. And very rarely have I ever even seen it beyond that point in my life. But they were down the hall, and they were in front of the bedroom or something.
Brown chicken. Wow.
No, it was not Brown chicken.
Oh.
Well, I mean, they can get angry and also bounce Chica.
They did not.
Maybe that's what sparked the argument.
Maybe. But I just remember he couldn't perform. But yeah, so they were screaming at each other. And I remember being really surprised because I never really saw them get into it. And I always knew that they had their like issues, but I don't know, it just didn't really seem like it was ever that dramatic. And it was dramatic. But I don't remember anything that they were saying. I just remember being like further away. Like I think they thought I was in a different room or that I was far enough away that I didn't know what was going on, but I was clearly just like standing there watching them argue. So
I think parents always think the kids aren't going to hear.
Right. Like, how do you miss that?
That's probably true.
The walls are magic.
Right. But that's all I remember. And I have most of my memories come from when I lived in that area because I moved a lot growing up. And that was the one place that I was at, I think, for more than a year.
So it seems like trauma triggers the first memory is what I'm learning today.
Well, and what's yours? Because if yours is the same, that's kind of what I'm thinking, is that it's something negative. We're not remembering something happy.
Yeah, mine is the story is true.
Oh!
You like that?
Oh,
What a slick reveal, huh?
That was pretty smooth, man. Smooth.
Wow.
I didn't think it was real. Well, then, you know what? It's not so good a story anymore. I thought you wrote something really smart. And you're like, well, I just pulled that from my ass.
It was still written. No, we're not complimenting you. We're done.
Okay, yes. No, it was written poorly, told poorly. It's a bad story. Whatever.
I don't like it anymore now that it's true.
I'm proud of unveiling that twist.
Yeah, that was really well done.
That clearly shocked both of us.
And it makes it easier. You don't have to do it again.
Yeah, I don't have to ask.
My first memory, bitch, I already told you.
Right. And now, yeah, no, we don't. I mean, I know I disrupted the truth and fiction guessing game.
I think that was a really great
reveal. Really well done. Mm-hmm. You got me. You got me, Kappa. You got me.
Wow. So yeah, it must be, I mean, not that we're like conducting our study right now. That's going to go in any published research facility.
3 out of 3 rate ain't bad.
Yeah, that's science.
We're at 100%. We're good to go. Done. Yeah. Publish it. We're out of here.
Write a paper.
Yep.
There you go. You got your story. You just put that in there.
It has to be 500 words or less because that's as far as we write.
3 out of 3 authors agree. This is what causes it. It's just like a toothpaste commercial.
I don't think that's how research in science works.
That'd be funny. Yeah, it'd be great. It'd be like 3 out of 3 researchers agree, but on the back we're like, but only 4 out of 5 dentists do.
Oh, that was good.
That was a good episode. Cool.
That was good. What was the title of your story?
It's Memoriam Primi, which is Latin for first memory.
Well, wow.
Wow. You really showed up this episode.
I know. I'm feeling really bad for my next title because it's really, really lame.
My bad.
Also, I don't even feel like we really need to go into it because clearly both of us thought that story was false.
Yeah.
So you totally surprised us.
It's a ruse. I already said you got
did.
me. How many times do I got to say that?
I don't know. I think you want to keep saying
I'm kind of mad that he got me because I really, really saw no point where that was real.
You thought it was fiction from the get-go?
Well, now I feel really sad for you. Like, you're sitting around playing with these little dump trucks, and kids playing with a dump truck. That's sad enough. Where's your Hot Wheel track, man? And then,
man, there were cool cars in the dump truck.
All right, it still sounds like you got a dump truck, but
yeah, well,
whatever.
What are you gonna do?
Aw, that's sad.
It's okay. I mean, you're kicking over lawn chairs and getting beat. It's not exactly uplifting.
Yeah. It's kind of a happy memory for me because my grandpa makes me laugh because he wasn't kidding. And I thought I'd test him and I failed.
Miserably.
I just want to point out, I thought I'd test him and I failed.
I'm sure you conducted that test many more times in your life.
Not that one. Nope. That was a one-timer. That was a one-time only. I got it. Point made, Grandpa. You won.
With your story, either when I first started to hear it, I could actually imagine it in my head really well. Like you did a really good job of explaining it. And so maybe now I feel kind of dumb for not figuring it out because there was so much detail in it.
It's just funny you say that because I actually I wrote it and then I rewrote it and I removed details because I figured it was too specific.
Do you want to share what some of those details were?
No.
Oh.
And then I cried. I cried so hard. Oh, man. Well, as our show goes, we will occasionally pick listener stories to read and discuss on Smirk. If you'd like a chance to have yours read, you can email them to mystory@smirkpodcast.com or mysadness@zach.com.
At Zach.com.
You should lock that domain down.
Join the conversation by joining our Facebook group, which is Smirk, or follow us on Twitter @Smirk Podcast, and be sure to use the show's hashtag Smirk. Don't miss an episode. Be sure to subscribe to Smirk on your podcast app of choice and check out our website at smirkpodcast.com. Please leave us a review. Please, please, please. It really does help the show. And I do want to point out, every episode of Smirk is different. Some are going to be funnier, some are going to be more serious, some are going to be somewhere in the middle. And that's why we love this show.
And we hope you do too.
Like this one. Like this one was kind of somewhere back and forth. And I really like that dynamic.
Yeah.
We can go back and forth.
We have a unique tone.
I agree. Well, you want to take us out, Mr. Sadness?
As you write your own life story, always remember to tell it with a smirk.
Do you want them to do it with a smirk? I feel like you want them to do it with a frown.
You can smirk.
You can hug your kids is what you can do. Is like, leave this episode and go hug your children.
Seriously.
Apologize to them before it's too late.
Yeah.
Every parent who is listened to that episode is sitting there thinking to themselves now, shit.